Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Charles here, and in today's interview, I have with me my good friend Josh Hamit. Josh, welcome to the channel, my friend.
Hello, Charles. How's it going?
All good, all good. Can't complain. Can't complain. Everything's good over here. So in today, what we're going to do today is go through. Josh, basically, he runs an SEO agency based in the UK called Improve My Search Ranking. Um, and we're really just going to talk shop. We're gonna discuss various things regarding SEO, and hopefully you'll be able to get some really good insights into how he's able to help his clients, get better Google rankings, more organic traffic, and obviously generate more leads and sales for their business. I'm trying to think how we met, Josh. I think I posted something on Facebook and you commented. I can't remember um, how
No,
we
I can't
originally met.
remember
I think
either.
it was something along those lines because I yeah I realized I saw your comment and I started having a look at your stuff and I was he's based in Beckenham, which was just down the road from where I used to live in Chislehurst. And then we got chatting, and then realised that you're also from a Greek Cypriot background as well as myself. And it was like, yeah, it was
Turkish Cypriot as
similar
well.
age, running SEO agencies. Yeah, but obviously, oh
Yeah,
yeah, sorry, yeah, yeah, you're Turkish Cypriot, aren't you? Yeah, you're the other side.
yeah, yeah,
Technically, we shouldn't be talking, but
yeah, yeah.
different generation, but way after the war. But yeah, no, it's interesting to see that we're quite from similar backgrounds, and that's kind of how we met, and then me and Josh kind of regularly used to meet up every time I'm kind of back in the UK. We have a catch up and just talk about our SEO agencies. So we thought we'd have that discussion on my channel and give you guys some insights. So, Josh, obviously, I'm talking way too much here. So let me let you introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about who you are, what you guys do, and how you got started basically with your business.
I think it all goes back a long, long, long time ago to why I've become an entrepreneur. My dad, when I was maybe 9 or 10 years old, he quit his job. He left the 9 to 5. He left the corporate world, and I suppose that was the initial inspiration, and initial spark to learn about business. And I think a few weeks later, at age 9 or 10, I set up my first little venture in the school playground behind a bench. I started selling my old computer games and Pokemon cards, and yeah, I suppose that's where it all started. And from there, my interest in business just grew. I guess I was inspired by my dad a lot. I took up business studies at school, and that's where I came across a concept that I'm sure you know and you practice as well, called Kaizen, or continuous improvement, which was like a Japanese
Yeah.
business philosophy. And that concept has stuck with me since that day, probably 16, 17 years ago. And that's something I try to incorporate in my life every day. And then from that moment, I was thinking about what kind of business can I start. And my uncle had just finished a course doing web design, and he showed me the ropes of HTML. And I then started, I think I was about 17, 18, I started a little web design agency. I didn't really have many customers or know what I was doing. And a couple of years later at university, one of my tutors asked me, can I make him a website? I made him one. And he asked me a question that probably changed my life going forward. He said to me, the website looks great, but how can anyone find it on Google? How can I get on Google? And then from that moment onwards, I started researching it, and I became a bit fascinated with how SEO works and the like. After uni, and then started looking at jobs in SEO. I ended up working at a very small agency in South London, and I got to basically, they didn't offer SEO, so they gave the task to me. Can you set up the SEO department or SEO service? And I then learned how to sell SEO, how to deliver SEO. At the agency, I suppose I learned about customer service, how to speak to clients, reporting, all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, when I started that job is when I started reading. I came across a book, which I'm sure you've read, being the digital nomads that you are, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. And having read that, I think that gave me the impetus and the courage and the desire to think, can I do this myself? I've set this SEO service up at this agency. I've got 8, 9, 10, 11 customers. Those, if I was to have done that on my own, I'd probably earn more than what I was earning at the agency. And yeah, that the combination of those things led me to start and improve.
And how did you go about getting your first, I guess, 5 clients? What was your way of generating, starting from scratch? How did you go about it?
I suppose thinking back, if the initial clients I got, the very first client I got was actually my granddad had just got his carpet cleaned, and he mentioned to him that I started a business, and I got talking to him from there. That's how I got my first client. I suppose I got a few from the agency I used to work at as well. Then our gardener, my dad's gardener, ended up as a client. And then from there, it kind of turned into referrals and networking. I kind of met a few agency owners, probably how we came to initially chat. And from there, it just grew from referrals, recommendations, that kind of thing.
And was for how long were, just to give my audience an idea about your progress. So like, what year are you in now in terms of running the agency? Like, where have you gone from? Like, obviously, I guess you were starting out by yourself. So where are you now in terms of your team and etc.? How has that journey progressed?
So I started the agency now it must be about 7 years ago. Started out it was just me working from home out of a little office room, and that was the case for at least a year or two until I built my client base up to afford an office. I then moved into an office, hired my first salesperson, which didn't really work out too well for me. That was a challenge on its own. From there, I tried to systematize, I suppose, what I was doing. I read the book, the E-Myth Revisited. I think it's Michael Gerber, which is a really, really great book. So I tried to, I suppose, transition from being the technician, being the guy doing everything, to being more of the manager or more of the business owner, and trying to get people in to do their set roles and try to systematize the business. So I probably 2.5 years in, I've got my first SEO executive. I can't remember exactly now how and when we got the different members of staff, but as of today, we've got eight members of staff, full-time in-house, and we do work with a number of freelancers. So we have essentially probably another 3 employees, contractors who are like full-time content writers. So yeah, 8 to 11 kind of staff, I suppose, at the moment.
Yeah, interesting. And obviously, I know that you kind of did the opposite of what I did, which was you built an in-house team versus a remote team. I know that obviously remote, after what's happened in the last couple of years, has been even more popular. Why did you decide to go down that in-house route? And explain to me, is there any kind of, do you feel that there's any advantages to doing that, or any, potentially any disadvantages?
I suppose there are both advantages and disadvantages for both styles. I suppose the advantage of, from my point of view, from running it from an office and having in-house staff is that it's easier, I think, to pass on specialized knowledge, and it's easier to lead by example almost. So I think if you're working with freelancers, like I do anyway, to some degree with the content writers, you can't really influence them. You don't know what they're doing. And I think I like to try to lead by example. I get into the office early, I leave the office last. I try to do my work to the highest level, and I think that kind of rubs off on people. And I think maybe that can't happen in a kind of remote setting. So that's one idea. So I suppose that helps like build the culture of the company. What else is there? I suppose it's the staff are more accountable almost in a way, because they always have to show up physically and do the job there and then. You don't know if, like, if you're working with someone remotely, they could be watching TV, doing whatever. I think that kind of helps as well. I suppose another advantage is that it's made me a better entrepreneur in a way. It's made me have to learn other skills I wouldn't have to learn if I had a remote team. So I had to learn more about HR and contracts and management and all those kind of things. So I suppose those are all benefits.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, I think there's definitely advantages to having that in-house team. You get a quicker, I guess, feedback loop as well in terms of responses, and there's not as much miscommunication. You can very quickly resolve any issues, whereas with remote, it's a longer drawn out process, and there's obviously, there's pros and cons, I think, from both sides, isn't there? But yeah, no, it's interesting to know, because like you said, there's a lot of companies going more remote now, but equally that doesn't always work out. And you're not always going to get the highest productivity out of your team from doing that. So yeah, no, I think there's some really solid advice there. Josh, in terms of like your take on, let's delve in a little bit into educating people on SEO. And like for me, I always say when it comes to SEO, I try to break it down into pillars. So I always say, like, keyword research, you need to get that fundamentally right. Have a strong content strategy, link building, user experience. So the way the site looks, how you navigate around the site is very important. And then finally, sort of the technical side, so technical SEO. Is there anything from those that I have not covered, or would you add anything else into that mix? How do you structure your SEO campaigns for your clients?
I think that methodology you outlined there is spot on. Really, that's perfect. It has all the different elements you need to work on to deliver a successful SEO campaign. I suppose the only thing I'd add to that, and to deliver a successful SEO campaign, is how those different elements are done, how they deliver to the client. Are they delivered through a systemized process? Is it consistent? Is the communication good? Is the reporting consistent? I think, from my point of view, something that a lot of agencies do wrong is they don't do that part right. They know how to do on-page SEO. They know how to do link building. They know how to do all those other elements, but it's putting it all together into a system and a process that you can deliver consistently and on a framework that's going to give great results. So there's nothing really I'd add to that other than just making sure that it's delivered in a tangible way that a marketing manager or a business owner can actually understand, because most people have no idea how SEO works and don't really want to know how it works. They just want you to deliver the results in an easy to understand way. And that's all I'd add.
Yeah, interesting. And would you say, I mean, like, in terms of, you said, companies don't really care about understanding it. They really just kind of want the results. What would you say is kind of the biggest myth or misconception about SEO? Like having, because I mean, I'm right in thinking you've worked with hundreds of companies at this point. So I'm sure there's probably a few commonalities in terms of like business owners and what their thoughts are on SEO. Give me some misconceptions or myths that always spring up that you're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, I think we've now worked with just over 500 businesses. So yeah, oftentimes the same myths, the same issues, the same strange ideas crop up. I've got a couple that come to mind. One is that the SEO has to take a long time. It's pretty commonplace to say it's going to take at least 12 months for an SEO campaign to work. But it does really depend on the campaign, the competition, and what's needed. A lot of our clients are local service businesses, and actually you can see results with some good on-page optimization within sort of 4 weeks or 8 weeks, 3 months. You can get some half-decent results pretty quickly. So that's one misconception. The other kind of ties into your framework you mentioned earlier, and it's that SEO works alone in isolation. For SEO to work, you don't only just need to optimize a few title tags and have some decent content, but it touches on every part of your digital marketing strategy. You need to have a decent website. It needs to have like a nice design. You need to have conversion rate optimization best practices in place. You need to have the right landing pages, because without that, even if you did get to page one, people will land on your site but they won't convert. And the reason any business invests in SEO is they want more customers. So that's another misconception, that people think just do the on-page SEO or just do some new content, and that will solve our problems and that will get us more clients.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's a very good point. I think people think that, like you said, it's just a few change a few tags and then suddenly you're going to get some results. Realistically, SEO is marketing in itself. There's different aspects to it. I mean, having worked obviously with a lot of local sort of service-based businesses, for those that kind of, anyone that's listening that runs a service-based business, what's the key components of a kind of solid local SEO strategy? What are you looking at? What are the things that are going to sort of move the needle the most when it comes to local SEO?
I suppose the things that would move the needle the most for a local SEO campaign would be first getting a real understanding of the business and their services. So use an example of a carpet cleaner. So a carpet cleaning business, they don't just offer carpet cleaning. In most cases, they might offer upholstery cleaning, they might do driveway cleaning, they might do X, Y, and Z, other different services. So the first thing, and the first big mistake I see a lot of small businesses and local service businesses do in particular, is they have a service page on their website, and that service page is just one page and it lists these are our services, contact us today. So the first thing to consider is having a separate page for every single service that you offer. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, being a local service business, you probably travel out to certain locations to offer your services. And what you need to do is you need to have individual pages for each and every single town you want to target. So this links. I mentioned carpet cleaning because we have a great case study where we worked with a carpet cleaning company. Before they worked with us, their website generated less than 2 leads per month. It now generates about 400 a week, and it's all based on that basic fundamental strategy we just recommended there. So it's just, they have hundreds of location pages, they have lots of different service pages, and that's that's the basis of the campaign.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid plan. I think that works. In my experience as well, really well in terms of, like you said, having those separate services pages and then having those separate location pages so you can actually rank for those different, areas. It still works. I mean, I find with SEO the kind of everyone, there are slight new tactics and things that kind of work, but the fundamentals haven't really changed, have they? Probably, for many years. Obviously, there's some tactics become a little bit more spammy, and Google deem them to be not the best practices. But as I said in another interview that I've done recently with another SEO agency owner, I said, often what Google say you shouldn't do actually works. What they say, if you take what Google say and do the opposite, sometimes you're going to get better results. I don't really understand why they comment on things, to be quite frank, because I think it just confuses the SEO industry, but maybe that's just part of their plan or their strategy.
But 100% agree with you that the fundamentals have been the same probably since the day I learned about SEO to today. All your basic on-page SEO, that hasn't changed, and without that fundamental SEO in place, you're never going to get results. So the old tactics still work well.
Yeah. In terms of obviously building links to your site, building backlinks to your site is very important. What kind of tactics do you deploy for your clients to generate them, consistent links? What are you doing? Are you trying anything new in 2022, or are you still using, the same tactics that you've used in the past? Explain to me sort of how you generate links, and also, are you building different types of links for different types of clients? I.e., if it's a local client, do you need to build as many links versus maybe if it's a national campaign and you're competing against more people? What would be your your link building approach?
Yeah, well, as you kind of alluded to there, it really depends on the campaign and the competition levels for that particular campaign. So if we used to use an example of a local service business again, the first thing I would recommend is using a service like Whitespark, where you can essentially instruct them to acquire local citations for you, so directory listings on all those kind of major directory listings throughout the world, wherever you may be. And also you could use Whitespark again to get the sector specific directory listings for your local business. Outside of that, what I would personally do, and I recommend, is to find the local networking businesses in the local area for your business, and the local business associations and similar businesses to that, and to check their websites, to inquire to see if you can get a listing on their site somewhere, if you can be added to the business association, or if you could even pay to do an advert on their site. So what we're trying to do there is trying to find high authority local sites and add our client to those. Outside of that, it would be, again, trying to find local business sites, maybe not in the same niche as you, because they would be unlikely to link to you, but any sort of local business site, any local news website, and to see if you can either convince them to give you a guest blog spot on their site, or to pay for one, essentially. And so those are a few ideas. Outside of those, you could also look to find local events, local sports teams, local charities, those sort of things. And again, see if you can pay for a link on those websites back to yours, or see if you can get yourself a free link. What else is there?
Nice.
I suppose one final idea would be you could look to build a really unique and quality resource on your own website. So this very much depends on what kind of industry you're in, but you could look to create some sort of tool that is unique and nobody else has, and provides value to your website visitors. Neil Patel, massive SEO guy, he's a big proponent of this idea whereby you just create a tool, or in his case, just buy everybody else's tools and then stick them on your website. And those tools then generate loads and loads of backlinks. Because they're valuable and useful tools. That's another. It's a more difficult way of doing it, but that's a great way of getting links.
Yeah, I think the important thing with links is to understand is there's a lot of work involved, some of the times to get good quality links, and it's making sure that if you are going to hire a link service provider, that they're not going to build spammy links. There needs to be there is some strategy behind the link building approach for sure, and it's really dependent on the different type of campaign, isn't it?
100%.
So Josh, in terms of, obviously we talked about link building for kind of a local SEO strategy for kind of service-based businesses. What about the content side of things? So you talked about building out individual service pages, and then also individual location pages that you want to target. Anything else with regards to content that could really help for like a local SEO campaign?
I think those are the two main ones. Another content idea that kind of links into link building as well is you could look to, just an idea that came to mind right now, is that if you're a local business, you're based in South London, what you could do is on your blog, you could host a South London blog, and you could list the top 10 restaurants in South London, the top 10 Italian restaurants in South London, the top 10 Cypriot restaurants in South London. And what you can do is convince prior those restaurants to agree to link to your site if you feature them in your article. So one way to create some more content that's going to benefit your SEO is to do something along those lines.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's creating kind of localized content, isn't it? Using your blog as a kind of leverage. I like that approach. I think I've seen that work a couple of times in the past before, from looking at other various sort of local SEO campaigns.
I think with
if
local
you want
service,
to get really targeted in your approach, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think with local service businesses, one thing to consider about the content is, and the keywords and the whole SEO, is that the keywords people are searching for are very high intent. So if someone's searching for carpet cleaning London or oven cleaning London, they're looking for a service there and then. That kind of limits what you can do with the content on the site from an SEO standpoint for a service business, in my opinion. You could create blog posts on how to clean a carpet, how to remove a wine stain, how to do X, Y, Z, but that does have some long-term benefits. But we tend to focus more on the high-intent keywords that are going to drive sales immediately, rather than other sort of informational search queries.
So I guess we're kind of going through each of the pillars here, aren't we? So while we're on that, any kind of keyword research principles that you could share? Because I think this is one area of SEO where a lot of people get wrong. And there's 100 different ways to kind of skin a cat. There's different approaches. I mean, if you speak to like 10 different SEOs, they'll give you 10 different approaches, and they may all work. So it'd be curious to get your kind of keyword research approach, or any or principles that you apply when you're doing starting out on an SEO campaign.
I suppose it all links back to, firstly, what does the business do? So we'll have an in-depth conversation with the client, understand what they do, and from there we try to understand all the different services and sub-services and products they offer, and all the locations they serve, etc. But once we get that information after an initial chat, we then start our keyword research with that information, and we create keyword groups for each service and each location they want to serve. So what the principles would be from there. It's quite basic, really. We just simply find the keywords that have the highest demand, that are viable for our client to rank for. So we look at the domain authority scores and see how that compares to our clients. We make a judgment call based on that and our experience if we feel they could rank for those terms. And I suppose, as I mentioned slightly earlier, for a local service business, we would focus on high intent keywords, and we would just look at creating landing pages based on our keyword research that are going to generate inquiries.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I think that the difficult thing with keyword research, explaining it, is we know how to do it. It's difficult to really then break it down and explain it, step by step, because it's quite a long process. And actually, I feel that with SEOs, you build a sort of intuition, don't you, of how to do it. And sometimes to then teach someone from scratch how to do that is quite difficult, I think. You can kind of, train your team how to do it. But I think a good SEO should have their own approach and should learn as they go along, or how to best do it, because you're always also revisiting it, aren't you? You optimize your pages, and then you see what the results are, and if they're not quite up to the level that you want, then you're having to tweak, test, change. I always say with SEO, it's a lot of testing and tweaking and trial and error to yes, you have your strategy, but equally you can't just do it once and then set and forget. You have to constantly be re-optimizing things and improving things based on the data.
Yes, that's a great point. So that just reminded me of some work we're doing at the moment for a commercial cleaning company. And what we've done is we've created a whole set of maybe 30 location pages, and we're testing 3 different title tags with 3 different types of keywords and different call to actions, and including the price in the title tag, including the phone number in the title tag. And just so we're going to run that experiment for a few months and see which one works best, and then we'll carry out the same across all the title tags.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a really good approach, is doing kind of an A/B testing. So what you're taking, kind of 3 variations of the same landing page, and then just changing the copy and the SEO metadata. Is that right?
Essentially, yeah. So there's 30 locations that we want to target, and the design of the page is pretty similar, to be honest with you. It's more we're optimizing. At the moment, we're isolating the title tag. So we're trying to see what kind of title tag would work best. Will it be just simple keywords, brand name, or is it going to be keywords, prices from X many years experience, brand name, and we've got 3 different templates basically we're testing, and we're going to see which works best. No,
I think that's I think that's a very good approach. It's kind of I don't think a lot of SEO agencies go into that much depth and actually do enough testing when they're running the campaign. So yeah, I think it's really important to do that for sure. Any SEO tools, Josh, that you really like? I say, if I was to say, what's your top 3 to 5 tools that you guys use in your agency, what would you say they are now? Because sometimes they change, don't they?
Yeah.
every year there's new tools that come out. And what's your favourites out there at the moment?
Yeah, there's so many to choose from, and we do dabble and look at new ones every now and then. I would say our most commonly used tools would be SEMrush, Moz, and just a Google Keyword Planner tool. We use those 3 tools every single day, and I would say those are our most commonly used tools. And outside of that, I suppose we've developed our own templates and frameworks. And for example, we've got an Excel document that is kind of our own little piece of software that helps us generate ideas for keywords, and we use that a lot. So outside of what our own internal system, I would say SEMrush, Moz, and the Google Keyword Planner.
Nice. And do you use them for specific things? Like, would you use SEMrush for analyzing links versus Keyword Planner for the keyword research, or do you kind of use a combination of the 3 and kind of analyze all the different metrics?
Yeah, we use a combination of all 3. So for our keyword research, we would mainly use SEMrush and the Google Keyword Planner tool. Sometimes we would also look at Moz additionally. For Moz, I think Moz has kind of lost its place in the SEO world. It's kind of fallen behind SEMrush and Ahrefs and some of the newer stuff. But because all of our campaigns for the last 7 years are all started in Moz and have all the data's in there, we've kind of stuck with that. So we mainly use Moz for our reporting, because it has all of our keyword history, and you can generate reports quite easily in there. They look half decent. So yeah, Moz we use for reports. We started using SEMrush as well for reporting, but it's mainly Moz.
Yeah, I think there's so many, isn't there? I mean, we use SEMrush. Ahrefs is one I kind of use for the backlink side of things. I think it's really in depth. But yeah, I remember using Moz when I used to work for a company in-house for a little while. And it was quite good in terms of the visual aspect of it. You could, easy to analyze the data. But yeah, I've not really used it since. Like you said, I think it's kind of fallen by the wayside a bit. But still, I'm sure it's still a pretty solid tool.
Yeah, it's not the best anymore, but it still works for us.
Yeah, and I guess if you've used it, you're using it for you've got the historical data there. If you've been using it for so many years, it's like it doesn't make sense to then jump ship and use a different software if you haven't got the data to kind of show your progress. So yeah, that makes total sense. This is one for you, Josh. What would you say is like? Do you have any, like, obviously you've been in the industry now. Obviously you've been running your agency for like seven plus years. Any kind of things that you think the SEO industry can improve on as a whole? Like, any kind of thing you're like, I wish the industry didn't do this, and because it's you can it obviously can have an impact on how you interact with clients. Anything you think that the SEO industry as a whole should need to improve on? And
I suppose the main thing is SEO has a bit of a bad name. Most people don't have a great experience with SEO, and a lot of our clients come to us with having done SEO campaigns for years, and I look at their websites, and we look at their sites, analyze them, and basically nothing's been done. And that is the biggest problem. Is there's a lot of people selling SEO, and they're not fulfilling what they're supposed to be doing. They're giving a bad reputation to the industry. That's the main thing.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's I call them snake artists out there? Why do you think that there's so many? Is that just the nature of any industry, do you think, or is there a reason for that? Do you think?
Yeah, it may be, or it could be the fact that SEO, on the face of it, seems quite technical. I mean, personally, I don't think SEO is rocket science, but to most people, it is technical to an extent, and I think it's easy to because it's intangible as well. I mean, changing a title tag, changing a heading tag, doing some backlinks, it's not very tangible. You can't see, the customer can't really see much for what they're paying for other than the results, and I think that lends itself to these kind of people taking advantage of that. And I suppose, it's just most people don't understand SEO, so it could be sold by someone who doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a complete kind of, if you don't understand the subject and what you're buying, then you can easily be taken for a ride, can't you? Plus, there's no real barrier to entry to start and sell SEO. I mean, you could literally sell SEO tomorrow, couldn't you? If you were just starting out. So I guess like zero barrier to entry, and a lack of understanding from the customer means that inevitably there's going to be people that have been ripped off. So I guess it's our job as SEO agency owners to continue to kind of educate our clients and customers about what it really takes to build a successful SEO campaign.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree.
Josh, in terms of kind of just wrapping things up, what's your plans for your agency moving forward? And obviously, I know that you've been doing this for sort of 7 years now. What's the plans for your SEO agency? What's the grand plan moving forward into the kind of the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I always had the dream that I was going to retire at age 35. That's 3 years from now. So the idea, I think the original idea was I'll get to 35, I'll sell the business, and I'll go and sit on a beach. But I think I've changed my mind. I enjoy running the business too much, and I don't think I would entertain selling the business until I've got to a valuation of maybe over 10 million. I don't think I'm anywhere near that yet. Really, it's probably going to have to double or triple the amount of staff we've got as it stands. And what I feel, the business is a great vehicle for personal development. I'm sure you would agree. And I that's something I really enjoy about running this business, is that I get to speak to a lot of great people. I have to read a lot of books. I have to listen to business podcasts, and I'm learning a lot. And I don't want to stop that. And so for the time being, I'm going to keep the business. I want to grow it to a 10 million valuation, and then maybe think about doing something else. Yeah,
I guess I mean, the idea of retirement at 35 sounds great, but then I guess it's a case of, well, that might be good for like a year or two, chill out, go to a nice tropical island somewhere, but then it's you probably soon get bored after a while and want to get back into running a business. So it makes total sense. Got to aim for those big lofty goals.
That's it. 100% agree. So it won't be retiring anytime soon.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Josh. Well, yeah, I appreciate you coming on the channel. I think that's going to give my audience some really valuable advice, especially in terms of, if you've got a service-based business and you want to build a good, solid SEO campaign that's going to improve your Google rankings and get more traffic and leads from your website. So yeah, hope you found that valuable, guys. And Josh, yeah, once again, thanks for coming on the channel.
No worries, pleasure.
And yeah, until next time, peace out.
See you.